New Jersey has places that look like a travel movie in the daytime, but at night they feel like a completely different film. This video is the top 10 creepiest small towns in New Jersey, and the scary part is that everything has a reason behind it. Sometimes it's just a long forest road that makes you start psyching yourself out. Sometimes it's ruins swallowed by trees, like the world forgot they were ever there. Sometimes it's a building so old that the scratches on the walls sound like messages left behind. And sometimes it's a way down beneath the ground that reminds you a city still has its shadows. Don't skip ahead, because the closer we get to the end, the creepiness doesn't come from ghost stories. It comes from the way the past refuses to let go of the present. Number 10, West Milford. You know that kind of road where the world feels like it shuts off behind you the second you turn onto it? That is Clifton Road in West Milford, up in the northern part of New Jersey. West Milford is not some tiny speck on the map either. It has around 25,000 people, but it is spread out with a lot of woods and water, so at night it can feel like you are driving through a place that forgot humans exist. Clifton Road runs for about 10 miles, and that length matters. 10 miles is long enough for your brain to start doing that thing where every shadow feels like a decision you did not make. The houses thin out, the trees get closer, the road bends and dips like it is leading you somewhere, but it never tells you where. You are not watching a horror movie, you are just staring at your own headlights. And somehow that is worse. This is where the local stories latch on. People talk about a spot some call Ghost Boy Bridge, around a curve that already has the kind of name that makes you sit up straighter. The old tale goes like this: toss a coin and it comes back, like someone down there is tossing it right back at you. Is it true? I am not here to swear on it, but I will say this: when you are alone on a dark road, a simple story like that sticks to your windshield like mist. Then there is Cross Castle, this leftover idea of a stone castle hidden near the woods, mostly gone now, with traces and ruins that make you picture a whole life that used to be there. That is the real creep in West Milford, not monsters. Just evidence that something was here and now it is not. If I am being honest, I would not come out here late just to test myself. Not because I believe every rumor, but because a road like this turns your own imagination into a passenger. And that passenger loves to grab the steering wheel. And if this place is scary because it isolates you in the open, the next town shifts the fear into something older, heavier, and much more enclosed. Number 9, Ringwood. Ringwood is one of those places that looks like a postcard in the daylight and then feels completely different the moment the sun starts sliding down behind the trees. It sits up in the Ramapo Mountains in Passaic County, not far from the New York line, about 40 miles northwest of New York City. And it is small, around 12,000 people. The kind of town where you can drive 5 minutes and suddenly it feels like you are alone with the woods. The creepy reputation here is not random. Ringwood has this old industrial heartbeat under all that green. Ringwood Manor sits inside the state park like a beautiful reminder that money used to live here. But the story behind it is heavier. This area was built around iron mines and a whole system of work that ran on ore, wood turned into charcoal, and water power. When you know that, the place stops feeling like just a nice historic house. It starts feeling like a quiet stage after the show ended. And the mines are not just some spooky idea people made up for fun. There were real mining sites in this area that mattered enough that people tried to revive them during World War II, hoping the ore would be useful again. Imagine that. Decades later, somebody looks at these woods and thinks, we might need what is buried here. That kind of history clings to a place. Now add the part locals love to whisper about. Ringwood Manor has evening tours where the stories lean into legends and you end up walking by lantern light toward the cemetery. Even if you do not believe in ghosts, your body still reacts. Your footsteps sound louder than they should. The air feels colder near the stone walls. You start noticing how a big old house has too many corners, too many doors, too many rooms where your eyes cannot see all at once. People will tell you they have felt strange cold spots or seen something that looked like a figure where no one should be. I am not here to swear any of that is true, but I will say this. In a place like Ringwood, the combination is what gets you. The beauty, the silence, the weight of old industry, the feeling that the ground itself has a memory. If I had to pick the real reason it feels unsettling, it is simple. Ringwood is peaceful, but it is not empty. It is full of what used to be there. And if this town feels creepy because history is hiding under the trees, the next place takes that same feeling and turns it into something you can actually see. Ruins getting swallowed by the forest. Number 8. Oakland. Oakland sounds like a normal Bergen County suburb if you only see it on a map. Around 13,000 people, grocery stores, quiet streets, the usual. But the weird part is how fast that normal life drops off. You drive a little, step into the Ramapo Mountain State Forest, and it feels like somebody turned the volume down on the world. That is where Van Slyke Castle shows up. And first off, it is not really a castle. It is ruins. Thick stone walls, broken openings where windows used to be, and the forest slowly taking it back like it is cleaning up a mess. The place has this end of the movie feeling, like you arrived after something big already happened and nobody bothered to explain it. Here is the part that always gets me. This spot used to be a fancy private place called Foxcroft, built around 1910 by a stockbroker named William Porter, and then he died the next year in a car accident. 1 year. Imagine putting all that money and hope into a mountaintop escape, and the story basically ends before it even starts. After that, it changed hands, got abandoned, and by 1959, vandals set it on fire. So when you are standing there today, you are not looking at a haunted castle. You are looking at what people do to things when nobody's watching. The hike in already sets the mood. Trees close in, the trail keeps pulling you forward, and then the stone just appears between the branches. If you wander around a little, you can find other leftovers too, like the old water tower ruins and even the remains of a pool. And that is the creepiest detail to me. A pool on a quiet mountain. It is such a normal living people thing, sitting there in pieces like a fossil. And if you keep going, you can catch views out toward the reservoir, all calm water and big sky. It is beautiful, which somehow makes the ruins feel even colder, like the world moved on without asking permission. If I am being honest, I do not think you need ghosts here. The real punch is realizing how quickly a place can go from someone's dream to stones in the woods. And if this one feels creepy because nature is swallowing what humans left behind, the next town shifts the fear into something tighter, older, and built to keep people in. Number 7. Mount Holly. Mount Holly is a small South Jersey town, the kind of place that feels friendly and historic on the surface. Around 10,000 people, a quiet downtown, and then right there on High Street, you find something that does not match the cozy vibe at all. The Burlington County Prison Museum sits at 128 High Street, and it has been there since 1811. 2011 would be old. 1811 is another level. This place was designed by Robert Mills, and it kept working as a jail all the way until 1965. That is more than a century and a half of people hearing a door close and realizing time is not theirs anymore. When you step inside, the building does most of the talking. Stone and brick everywhere, arched ceilings that make every sound bounce back at you. Your footsteps feel too loud. Your voice drops without you noticing, like your body understands the rules before your brain does. They even talk about how the design was considered advanced for its time, with things like individual cells and ventilation, which is a strange thought because it is still a cage, just a well-engineered one. Here is the detail that sticks with you after you leave. The museum has been working to preserve the graffiti left by inmates inside the cells, especially from the final years before it closed, not fake spooky writing. Real scratches, drawings, and messages carved into walls by people who were trying to stay sane. A lot of it is religious, like somebody was talking to the only listener they had left. You can stand there and read it, and suddenly you are not thinking about ghosts at all. You are thinking about loneliness. Of course, locals love to whisper the other stuff too. Spooky season articles, ghost tour talk, even the idea of paranormal investigations. People swear they felt cold spots or heard something that did not make sense. I'm not here to argue with anybody's story. But honestly, a building like this does not need a spirit to feel heavy. It already has one. It is called history. If I had to sum up why it feels creepy, it is because it is officially a landmark, preserved and documented like someone decided this place should never be forgotten. And then you walk inside and realize the building itself feels like it was built for forgetting people. And if this one is scary because it closes in around you, the next town is scary in a different way. It is open, pretty, and still somehow full of stories that follow you out into the dark. Number 6, Cape May. Cape May feels like the kind of place you visit to relax. It sits all the way down at the southern tip of New Jersey, a little beach town that looks like it was built to be photographed. And on paper, it is tiny. Roughly 2.8 thousand people live there year-round, but that is exactly why it gets weird after dark. The crowds leave, the porches go quiet, and the town starts looking less like a vacation spot and more like a set that forgot to pack up. The first thing you notice is the Victorian look. Cape May's historic district is packed with these late Victorian houses, all fancy trim, sharp roof lines, and too many windows. In daylight, it is charming. At night, those same details feel like they are watching you back. Not in a monster way, more like your brain keeps catching shapes in the shadows and refusing to let them go. And here is what makes Cape May different from a lot of creepy town lists. The town doesn't just have ghost stories. It sells them like a local specialty. There are real tours built around it. Cape May Mac runs a whole ghosts and mysteries lineup, and the vibe is basically, come for the history, stay for the chills. You can literally ride through the historic district on a trolley while someone calmly tells you why the pretty house you just waved at in the afternoon suddenly has a reputation at night. The best example is the Physic House Museum. It is a gorgeous old Victorian house, and the tours lean into the idea that it is reputed to be haunted. They even tie it back to Victorian spiritualism, which is such a perfect detail for Cape May because it makes the creep feel period correct. Like the town isn't pretending, it is just continuing a conversation that started a long time ago. If I am being honest, I don't think Cape May is scary because something is hiding under the bed. It is scary because it is so good at keeping the past alive. When a place is officially historic and still dressed up like another century, your mind starts acting like time is thin there. You walk one block, hear the ocean, see the gaslight vibe, and suddenly you are listening harder than you should. And if Cape May is creepy because it turns ghost stories into a whole nighttime ritual, the next town is creepy for a quieter reason. It has a local story that people don't tell like a tour script. They tell it like they're trying not to wake it up. Number 5. Lambertville, it's the kind of little river town people drive to when they want a calm weekend. It sits right on the Delaware River in Hunterdon County, staring straight across at New Hope, Pennsylvania, like they're sharing the same postcard. The whole place is small, around 4,000 people, so everything feels close. You walk a few blocks, grab coffee, browse antiques, and it feels like nothing bad could ever stick to a town this cute. And then you hear the story everyone seems to know, the one that hangs over the town like a rumor with a permanent address. Locals used to call it the School on the Hill, the old Lambertville High School. The building went up way back in 1854, and it served students until 1960, when it closed because it was too small and outdated. After that, it sat there for years, empty, watching the town below, like it was still waiting for the bell to ring. This is where the lore digs in. People talked about it like it wasn't just abandoned, it was haunted. There were stories of footsteps in empty hallways, shouting, the whole classic "don't go in there" vibe. And the legend that kept coming back was about a football player, Buck or Buckeye Billy depending on who you ask, supposedly dying after a terrible injury during a game. I'm not here to swear any of it happened exactly like the rumor says. But I will tell you something true. The story got big enough that it made the news when the town decided the building had to go. By 1992, the place had been damaged badly in a fire set by vandals. And years later, the building was still standing, still dangerous, still pulling people in like a dare. In 2012, it was finally demolished. Not because the town wanted to erase a ghost story, but because an old, burned-out structure on a hill is a real problem when curious people keep trying to get close. Here's the creepy part to me. The building is gone, but the story didn't leave with it. That's Lambertville's vibe in a nutshell. In a town this small, a legend can outlive the bricks. You can stand down by the river in broad daylight, feel totally safe, and still catch yourself glancing up at the hill like you expect the past to be staring back. And if this town is creepy because a rumor refuses to die, the next place is creepy for a different reason. It has a physical entrance into darkness, and people gave it a name that dares you to look inside. Number 4. Clifton. Clifton is not some sleepy little forest town. It is a real North Jersey city, packed with people, traffic, and that everyday New York metro energy. Close to 90,000 residents, the kind of place where your biggest worry is usually finding parking. And that is what makes the legend here hit so hard. Because in Clifton, the creepy thing is not out in the woods, it is under your feet. People call it the gates of hell, and the name sounds like a joke until you realize what they mean. It is tied to storm drains, the kind of drainage tunnels that are supposed to move water away when it rains. Somewhere in that system, there is an entrance locals love to talk about. A squared-off opening that looks less like a pipe and more like a doorway. Like the city accidentally built a trapdoor into a different world. Here is why it gets in your head. You can be standing in a normal neighborhood, hearing cars, seeing streetlights, and then you look at that opening and your brain starts doing math. Dark plus narrow plus underground equals panic. The air feels colder down there even when the day is warm. Sound doesn't disappear, it bounces. One step turns into 10 echoes. And the second you imagine being down there, you start imagining the worst part too. What happens if the weather changes? Because this is not a haunted mansion. It is flood infrastructure. A storm drain does not care about your legend. If it rains hard, the rules change fast. That thought alone is enough to make a creepy place feel genuinely dangerous. Of course, the stories piled on top of it. People whisper about graffiti, strange symbols, secret rooms deeper in the tunnels, and all kinds of urban legend stuff that grows in dark spaces. Some versions talk about a real gate hidden somewhere inside, like you have to go far enough before you find the thing the name is talking about. Other versions get even wilder. But the truth is, a place like this doesn't need the supernatural to scare you. It is the idea of getting turned around underground, hearing water start to move, and realizing there is no easy way out. If I am being honest, I would not go exploring it. Not because I am scared of demons, but because I am scared of basic physics and bad luck. A city can feel totally safe, right up until you find the one doorway that makes you remember how thin the surface really is. And if Clifton is creepy because it hides darkness beneath a busy city, the next place is creepy because the darkness is a leftover from an older kind of fear, the kind built for war. And number 3. Highlands. Highlands is one of those small Jersey shore towns that feels like it should only be about boats, seafood, and sunsets. It sits right by Sandy Hook Bay in Monmouth County, with the kind of water views that make you forget you're near anything serious. It's small too, around 4,000 people. Quiet enough that you can hear the wind most nights. And then you realize you're basically parked at the front door of New York Harbor. That's what makes the Nike missile site near Sandy Hook so unsettling. You can spend the afternoon doing normal beach stuff, and then a few minutes later you're staring at the leftovers of a Cold War defense system like you accidentally walked onto the wrong movie set. Concrete pads, old military layouts, the kind of place where everything was designed for one purpose, and that purpose was panic. This is part of Fort Hancock, inside Gateway National Recreation Area, and it wasn't some random experiment. The National Park Service lays it out pretty clearly. From the mid-1950s into the 1970s, the Nike system was built to protect major cities from air attack. New York was one of the biggest targets, so these sites mattered. They were active from 1954 to 1974, which means there were real people here, on real schedules, living with the idea that the sky could turn into a problem at any moment. What gets me is the split personality of the place. The ocean air feels clean, almost too peaceful. Then you look at the remains of the launch area and the radar control side, and you start imagining how tense it must have been. Not soldiers running around shooting, just waiting, watching screens, listening for orders, doing the quiet kind of work that only exists because everyone is scared of what might happen next. And it's not just history talk. The Park Service even runs tours, including a radar site tour. And sometimes you'll hear that veterans come back and tell stories about what it was like. That detail makes it hit harder, because it means this wasn't ancient history. It was somebody's job, somebody's normal Tuesday. If I'm being honest, I don't find it creepy because it's abandoned. I find it creepy because it's still sitting there next to a beach, like the world just shrugged and moved on. A place that was once top secret is now something you can visit in broad daylight, with seagulls screaming overhead. And if this number is scary because it shows you how close war planning was to everyday life, the next town gets scary in a different way. It's not about missiles, it's about a road with a name that does half the work before you even arrive. Number 2, Independence Township. Shades of Death Road is one of those names that does the job before you even get there. You hear it once and your brain starts writing its own movie. And the funny part is, this isn't some made-up horror label slapped on a theme park. It's a real rural road running through Warren County in northwest New Jersey, cutting through Liberty and Independence Township, in an area that already feels quiet and wooded. Independence Township only has around 5,000 or 6,000 people. So once you're out there, it doesn't take much for the silence to feel personal. The road itself is about 6.7 miles long, which sounds short until you're on it at the wrong time of day. 2 lanes, trees leaning in, long stretches where the world feels like it's just you and the bend ahead. And because the name is sitting in the back of your mind, every shadow feels like it means something. That's the trick. The road doesn't have to do anything. Your imagination does it for free. People argue about where the name came from. Some say it's just the shades, like thick tree cover, and the death part came later with old stories about trouble on lonely roads. Others swear darker things happened out there. I'm not going to play historian with a flashlight. I just know it's the kind of name that turns a normal drive into a dare. And then you get the side quests. Ghost Lake is right off the road, and locals will tell you it got that name because on cold mornings a thin mist rises off the water and looks like something standing out there. There's even this weird detail people repeat, that at night it can feel like the sky never fully commits to being dark. Like the place is stuck in a permanent late dusk. Is that true or just your eyes adjusting? Either way, it messes with you. Right nearby is something called Ferry Hole, which is hilarious and unsettling at the same time. Ferry sounds sweet until it's sitting next to death on the same little stretch of forest. Some stories tie it to Lenape history and old finds like pottery shards and arrow points, which gives it that feeling of layers, like the ground remembers more than the road sign ever could. If I'm being honest, I don't think this road is scary because it's cursed. I think it's scary because the name plants a thought, and the woods keep feeding it. And if this one creeps you out with a title that feels like a warning, the next place creeps you out with a name that sounds like an accident you can't take back. Number 1. Hope Township. Hope Township is tiny. We're talking under 2,000 people tucked up in Warren County, where the roads start feeling like they belong to the trees more than they belong to you. And right there is Jenny Jump State Forest, a place that should just be a normal hiking spot. Trails, campsites, quiet weekends, the usual. Except the name won't let it stay normal. Jenny Jump. Say it out loud, and it already sounds like a warning that arrived too late. like somebody shouted it in panic and the forest kept the echo. That's why this one hits as number 1 for me, not because the woods are darker than other woods. They aren't. The creepy part is that the name itself drags you into a story before your boots even touch the trail. Once you know there's a legend behind it, you can't unhear it. The local tale goes back a long way, tied to the Lenape, in an old story that was written down in the 1700s. In the version people repeat, a girl named Jenny is out on the mountain picking berries when her father spots danger moving through the trees. He yells for her to jump. Some tell it like she didn't make it. Some tell it like she did. And then there's the colder, more realistic twist. Maybe the story came after, invented because people wanted an explanation for a name that already sounded tragic. Like the mountain had a word first, and humans built a story to match it. Either way, you walk through this forest with that phrase sitting in the back of your mind and everything feels sharper. The wind sounds like it's carrying a sentence. The slope feels steeper than it should. Even the normal stuff becomes loaded. There are about 14 miles of trails here, campsites, and a real observatory in the forest that opens for public nights in season. That detail is almost unfair, because standing in the woods looking up at a huge dark sky is already the kind of thing that makes you feel small. Add a name like Jenny Jump and suddenly you're not just stargazing, you're listening for the past. If I'm being honest, I don't think this place is haunted in the movie sense. I think it's haunted in the human sense. By the way, we attach meaning to names. By the way, a community keeps repeating one story until the place and the story fuse together. Jenny Jump is creepy because it doesn't end when you leave the trailhead. You drive away and you still hear that name, like someone is calling after you, and you can't tell if it's a warning or a memory. Tonight wasn't really about ghosts. It was about how New Jersey can flip from normal to unsettling in one turn, one old building, one road name that sticks in your head. Some of these places feel creepy because of history, some because of silence, and some because your own imagination does the heavy lifting the moment the sun goes down. Now, I want to hear from you. Which town on this list would you never drive through at night, and which one do you think is overhyped? Drop your story in the comments, especially if you've been there. And if you want a part 2 with even stranger spots, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what state we should explore next.